Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti from AnthonyMorganti.com. This is the first video in a series of videos where I'll be talking about all the great plugins by Topaz Labs. Topaz Labs makes a number of plugins for, of course, Photoshop and Lightroom, but also for Elements, Paintshop Pro, Photo Impact, and Irfanview. Their plugins work in all those different apps. Now, in this video, I'm going to specifically talk about one of the plugins, Denoise. Denoise is my go-to plugin to rid my images of noise. And I'm going to show you how it works on three different images. The first one is this kind of typical landscape shot that has some noise in the sky. And quite frankly, those of us that are working professionals want to get in and out of the computer as quick as possible. We don't want to spend a lot of time processing our images. So whenever possible, we're going to use a preset. And Denoise has a lot of presets available that really effectively remove noise from your image. So in this shot, I'm going to just show you how to do it with a preset. Now the next shot is a night shot. It is at low ISO, ISO 100, but there is some noise in the shot. You can see specifically up here in the sky. So I'm going to show you how I use Denoise to minimize and or remove the noise in this shot. Not using a preset, using the sliders that are available in Denoise to eliminate the noise in this shot. Now the last shot is one that just has a lot of noise. This is high ISO. Uh, as you can see, as is typical if you're shooting concert photography without a flash, you have to use very high ISO. In this case, uh, there's a lot of noise in this image. So I'm going to show you how to eliminate the noise, or at least minimize the noise in this shot. We're going to start out with the landscape shot. Now, there's all different ways when you're in Lightroom. Obviously, I'm in Lightroom right now, how we could send this image over into Denoise. And throughout this video series, I'll show you all the different ways you do it from Lightroom and Photoshop. Normally what I do, the easiest way, is I just right click on the image, I go to edit in. And you can see there's no plugin for Denoise as you go through. But there is uh, it's called Edit in Topaz Fusion Express. What this is a free app, and it's kind of like the holder for all your Topaz plugins. So you click on this, and you'll see a little dialog box will pop up, and it's asking me whether I want to make a copy with Lightroom adjustments. And actually, that's my only choice because this is a raw image. If you were sending a JPEG or a TIFF file over to Denoise, you also would have these two choices active: edit a copy or edit the original. I suggest you always edit a copy, at least edit a copy, preferably edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments if you did do some adjusting in Lightroom. That way, um, if you mess up in Denoise, you just delete it. You have the original file still. So I'm going to click edit. And you can see up here it says preparing file for editing. What it's doing, it's creating this TIFF file. And then it comes up with this Fusion Express dialog box, which is asking me which plugin I want to use. I mentioned we're doing Denoise, so I'm going to click Run. So now we're in Denoise, and we have two panels. The left-hand panel has the presets. The right-hand panel has the actual slider adjustments, and we'll be doing that in the next two images. In this image, as I mentioned, we're going to use a preset. And I'm going to just drag the image down until I could see the sky. Now, up here in the right hand corner, we have some different views. You could click on here, and we're at 200%, we're at 50%, and right now I think we'll just stay at 200% right there. You also could drag around this little box here that's in this right hand panel and go to a specific area on the image that you want to preview. So we're right here. I could see the noise. And what you'll see on the left, the presets, we have JPEG presets and RAW presets. What I found is the JPEG presets are a little stronger than the RAW presets, meaning if you do JPEG moderate and then you do raw moderate, you'll see that the JPEG moderate is a little stronger. So what I usually do is I start out with the weakest preset first. And it doesn't matter really if you're using a JPEG image, a TIFF image, or whatever. You could use the raw. Just because it says raw, you could use it. It's not going to hurt anything, and you're not losing anything using it on a JPEG, let's say. Now, The reason why I'm starting out with the lightest preset first is whenever you get rid of noise in an image, no matter how you're doing it, whatever program you're doing it, you're always walking a fine line to eliminating noise on one hand and preserving detail on the other. If you eliminate the noise too heartily, you're going to lose some detail. So we want to try to preserve as much detail as possible. So I go to raw lightest and I just click there and then I look at the image and I just kind of drag it around, and when I click down, that'll give you the preview of the original image when I click down on the left mouse button. When I let go, it processes the image and I could see the image with the noise reduction applied. And actually, raw lightest did a pretty good job. And now I could try raw light, and actually that looks pretty much the same to me. So I'm just going to use raw lightest, and I'm going to go down here in the lower right hand corner and click OK. It's going to take a second to process the image. Now the more noise you have in the image, the more processing you did in Denoise, the longer this will take. And you'll see in the next two images it takes sometimes up to a minute. And I'll pause the video when I'm doing those next two images so you don't have to listen to me babble. But as I mentioned, working professionals, we would prefer to use a preset if possible. And these presets work very well for landscape images, your typical landscape image that has noise in the sky. Now, it's done processing. It's going to take a second for Lightroom to reload the new image. As you can see, it's loading. And there it is. Oops. Zoom in. And here it is here. Now I'm going to zoom out for a minute, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this one and I'm going to hit the C key for compare. So we're comparing. This is the TIFF file, which is the image that we eliminated the noise. This is the original raw file. We're going to zoom in and we could see right next to each other. You could see the difference. There's a lot of noise in this image and the noise is eliminated in that image, and it did a great job, and it was very, very fast, as you know could tell by using the preset. Now this next file is low ISO, ISO 100, but it is a night shot, and typically when you're taking shots that have a lot of dark areas in them, you will get more noise than in a brighter image. So in this shot here we have some noise and I want to eliminate it, so I'm going to right click on the image. Let's go back on it. Let's right click on the image. We're going to go to Edit In, Topaz Fusion Express. Again, it's going to come up with the dialog box. Since it's a raw file, I only have this one choice. And we're going to make a TIFF file, sRGB. You could do a PSD or JPEG. We're going to go TIFF, sRGB, 16 bits per component, 300 pixels per inch in resolution, and the compression is none. And we're going to click OK. Those are the settings I always use when I'm sending stuff to plugins. So again, it's going to create the TIFF file. It's going to put it down here in the film strip right next to the original file, and then it comes up with the Fusion Express dialog asking us which Topaz plugin we're using. We're using Denoise. We're going to click Run. Now, again, as I mentioned, we're not going to be using any presets in this image. I'm going to show you how I process an image when I really want to be super careful with it. Maybe I'm going to get it printed, I'm going to offer it for sale, and I really want to preserve as much detail as possible and rid the image of noise at the same time. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get rid of the preset panel by hitting this arrow right here, and I'm going to drag it over to a spot where there are some midtones. That's where I start. And this like cement facade on the building here is a midtone, I think is where it will work well. Now, if there is a lot of noise in the next image, you'll see, is I would go down to debanding first, and I would click the horizontal and vertical debanding and be done with it. A lot of times when there's a lot of noise, you get these kind of bands of noise in the shot, especially in the dark areas of the shot. And I'll just get rid of it right away. In this case, there isn't really any banding. I don't see any at least. So I'm not going to click those because again, I want to preserve as much detail as possible. Now, what you'll see, and we have this noise reduction tab, and we have a number of sliders: overall strength, shadow, highlight, red, blue, clean color, and correct black level. I adjust all these. I start out with overall strength, and all I'm looking at is something that's mid-tone in the image. Now, overall strength will reduce the noise in the entire image. All I'm worried about though is the midtones. I want to just apply just enough strength to rid the noise that's residing in any of the midtone pixels of the image, and not go any more, because if I go any more I'll start losing detail. If I don't go enough, I'll still have the noise. Now, I'm not worried about it if I start losing details in the highlights or the shadows when I do this, because these other sliders will help me get that back. Now, we have a number of preview modes up here: RGB, Luma, Color, Red, and Blue. We're going to use all of them. But to start with, for this overall strength adjustment, I use Luma. Just getting rid of the color helps me see the noise a little better. Now, we have Brighten Preview. We have Off, which doesn't affect this specific image a lot. And we have Normal, and then we have Strong. It makes it a lot brighter. I'll use Strong when I'm doing the shadows. It just helps see the noise a little better, brightening it up. Right now, I'll just leave it on Normal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to inch the overall strength slider up. And you can see down here it takes a second to render. As it renders the image, you'll see a progress bar go across here. And I wait till it's done rendering the image, and then I look. If I still have noise, I bring it up a little further. Now, it looks like it pretty much got rid of the noise. So now I'm going to inch it down a tiny bit, because as I mentioned, I just want to go just enough to get rid of the noise in the midtones, but not get rid of, or at least not lose as much detail as much as I can. And I'm just still inching it down. Okay, now I have a tiny bit of noise there, so I'm going to inch it back up. This is the hardest adjustment, this first one, in my opinion, just to get it right. And that looks pretty good. I got rid of the noise. As you can see now, it did affect the whole image. That's to be expected. Now, the next thing is we're going to adjust the shadow. And I'm going to bring it to a point in the image where we have some shadows, which is like in here, up in here. And as I mentioned, when you click down on the image, you get the original image to see what it looks like. So as I'm looking at it, the noise is pretty much eliminated in the shadow areas. I'm going to probably pull this box down to here and look, and it is pretty much eliminated. So I want to try to bring a little detail back. If there was still noise here in the shadows, I would move this slider to the right. But I want to bring some detail back, so I'm going to move this the slider, the shadow slider, to the left. And now this image too, I should add, it's so far away. You know, I was up in an observation tower shooting the city pretty far away with a wide angle lens. I think this was a, I don't remember specifically. I think it might have been a 14 to 24 lens, probably shot at 14 millimeters. So it's very far away on a full frame camera. So what I'll do is I'll just, and I'll drag around too, as I'll look at different areas of the image. And keep adjusting the shadows. If I start seeing noise come into the shadow, I'll move the slider to the right. And that looks pretty good right about there. We're just going to leave it there for now. Now, highlights, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with the highlight slider. Most of the time, I don't see the highlight slider doing anything. So let me maybe go to an area that has more detail, City Hall. And as you can see, this entire time too, I'm leaving it in the preview mode of Luma, all right, as I adjust these first three sliders. Okay, now I'm looking at the highlights through here. This is actually almost a mid-tone, but we'll look through. And Now I don't know where to go with it. So what I often do if I don't know where to go, I'll just maybe adjust it all the way down. And actually, as I mentioned, my love-hate relationship, I don't see it doing much. I see over here it did something right here. You can see it made it a lot blurrier. So we're going to come back down. It's not really adding noise, it is adding some detail. So we're going to bring highlights down because when I adjusted overall strength, I smoothed everything out so much I lost a lot of detail in the highlights and the shadows. So bringing the shadow slider down to minus 0.38 brought back some detail. Bringing this highlight slider down is bringing back some detail in the highlights. Now it went so far and then it doesn't seem to be doing anything anymore. So I'm just going to bring it to the point where it's not making a difference anymore, which is probably right about there. So I have the overall strength, adjust shadows, and the adjust highlights adjusted. Now the next thing I want to do is adjust the color red and blue. This will get rid of any uh, like color noise you may have in the image. And we're going to do red first, so I'm going to click on the preview mode of red, and you get this kind of wild looking um, kind of negative look to the image. And what you do is just bring in a good area where you have some highlights, midtones, and shadows. And what you want to do is you want to just try to make it as smooth as possible. So you move it to the right or left until it gets relatively smooth. Let's try left. See how it got blotchier, I think, when I moved to the left. So we'll move it to the right. Now there'll be a point where it's not really doing anything anymore. And that's when you want to just back it off. To tell you the truth, these two adjustments, the red and blue, are more, to me, of kind of a crapshoot. Because every little movement makes stuff move a little bit, but you don't know if you're really affecting it. You could go to the auto brighten preview and try it on strong or off to see if that helps. But what you want to do is basically just smooth it out as much as possible. And you could see how it kind of smoothed it a little bit there. There, I'm going to leave it right there. Now we're going to go to blue, and it's going to be more, I think, up in the sky area here. And we'll turn this up. And it seems to be making it harsher as I go up. Yeah, see, it's making it harsher either way I go. Now I could reset it back to where it was by double clicking on the name, and it puts it right back at 0, and I think I'm just going to leave it there. Now the next we're going to do is clean color. We're going to go to color up here in the preview mode, and we'll try, I think, normal. And actually, tell you the truth, since this is a night image, I don't think there's going to be a lot of color noise in the shot, but you could move it up a little bit and kind of see if we're cleaning it up a little in here. It does look like it is affecting it. Okay, that's not bad. Okay, now the current or correct black level. This one's important. I go to RGB for this. Sometimes I'll go to Luma mode for this, but almost always RGB. And I'll go to a black area, something with blacks in it, like the roof of this building. And I'll look at it, and a lot of times you'll see there's be a magenta like tint to it or magenta dots on it. And if you move this black slider to the right, it adds green to the black areas, which negates the magenta. If you have green there, you would move it to the left to add magenta to get rid of the green. Now in this case it looks pretty black. Probably not a lot to do here. So I'll move it to the right a little bit. And if you go so far and you start getting green, like a green little halo around things, then you really have to back it off. You went too far. You could go try different parts of the image too, like in here. And I'll tell you the truth, right around there looks pretty good. So that's good. Now, detail recovery. This is the part. Now, we got rid of the noise. We want to try to bring back some of our detail. And what I'll do now is this brick area here. You could see when I click down and it shows the unprocessed image, there's still some detail in that brick. And when I added the noise reduction, it blurred it pretty well. So what I do is I start with reduce blur. I found recover detail, they both work great. Recover detail will add noise faster than reduce blur. So I start with reduce blur and I push that up and I'm looking in here. I'm just adding uh, this slider more positive, making it more positive until it seems to stop doing anything. Then I'll back it off. So again, you want to get right to the point where it doesn't seem to be doing anything anymore and have it right there. Now I'll go to recover detail, and this one I usually don't move a lot. Like as I mentioned, this will introduce the noise that we just got rid of. So we just kind of be careful with that one. There's the before and there's the after. You also could click right here. There's before and there's after. We'll go down to fit. It's processing the image. There's our image with the noise reduction applied, and there's the original image. So there's noise reduction, original image. Now I think that's pretty good. So I think that's fine. So I'm going to click OK. Now again, it's going to process. Now this one will take a little while, so I'm going to pause the video. Okay, it processed the image. It took just over a minute on my Retina display MacBook Pro. Uh, so, of course, the faster your computer, the faster it will do it. Let's compare it to the original. I'm going to highlight that one by holding Command or Control and click on it. I'm going to hit the C key to do the compare. I'm going to zoom in. And I think you could see quite readily in the sky that it did totally eliminated the noise in the sky. Now, what I'm concerned about though is detail. So let's find some of this brick. I think it did a nice job. You could see that there's still some nice detail in here. You could see everything, you could see in the people's houses right there. But it did a nice job. Uh, I think it's awesome. You could see it did a really, in my opinion, a great job. So this is, how I would typically go about doing an image, most images. Now the next image is kind of an extreme case. This was a very dark venue, um, still ISO 3200, wide open on the lens, still tons of noise, and the noise really took away from detail. So usually I would process this in black and white because the colors of the lights, we have green, we have red, we have all these different weird colors. It really makes people's skin tone look bad. So I would process it in black and white first, then send it over to Denoise to get rid of the noise. For demonstration purposes though, I'm going to leave it in color because it will show how you would get rid of the noise. There's a little more work to getting rid of the noise when it's in color. So I'm going to right click on the image. I'm going to edit in Topaz Fusion Express 2. Again, it's going to ask me to edit the copy. It's going to be the TIFF, same exact settings. Click edit. It's creating the TIFF file. And once the TIFF file is created, the Topaz box will pop up asking me which plugin I want to use. And I want to use Denoise, and we're going to click Run. Now this one, because it's high ISO, I didn't mention that before. Let's go to Fit. Typically with high ISO you get this banding, and you could probably just barely make it out. See, there's the banding going across, and you get that more readily with high ISO compared to that previous image that was at ISO 100. It was a night shot. We really didn't have this banding. So what I do, now we have horizontal banding in this image, but I'm going to click both. We're going to click horizontal, and it will take a second to render and process. And then we're going to click vertical. And I don't think I ever mess with banding width slider at all. I just click those boxes and leave it be. Then I go and I do uh, my normal noise reduction, the way I normally do it. Now, again, I'm looking for something that's more of a mid-tone. I think something like right in here. Now, this is got a lot of noise. So, and the noise really did obscure the detail. So there's not a lot of detail in this shot. So even when I go to the detail recovery tab, I'm not going to be able to get detail back that was never there to begin with. So you have to keep that in mind. So we're going to go to overall strength, and again, I'm just going to put it up until I see the noise gone in this mid-tone area. Now let me see if I can find a better mid-tone area. See, that isn't a good area too. I think probably right where I was the best. Not a lot of strong midtones in this shot, so it's kind of right in here, I guess. His face and parts of his face are some midtones. I think right in there is probably the best midtone I got. Now, as I'm moving it, it seems to be doing a little bit more noise reduction every time I move it. But then there's a point where it's just not really doing much anymore. So I'm going to back it off. And again, I'm not worried about the shadows. I'm not worried about anything else. I'm just looking at this more mid-tone area, um, like in here, uh, there. Um, Actually, what I should have did, and I didn't in my haste making the video, is in the preview mode, I should put on Luma. I should click that because that gets rid of that color, and that really does help. Uh, Maybe it was good I made that mistake because you could see a little more clearly when the noise is actually gone and when it's not being effective anymore. So I'd say right around there is good. Now we have to adjust shadow. Go in here, look in here, and we have noise, so we're gonna get rid of noise. And you can see it's doing a really nice job. Now there's gonna be a point though where it's not gonna really get rid of any noise. It's just going to go so far. Like we have some highlights here off his jacket that aren't going to, you know, it's just going to stay that way. So we're going to leave it. So I think that's good for shadows. Now highlights, again, I have that kind of love-hate relationship with highlights. Um, Nothing there that I like. Probably right in here. And then we're going to increase that too. Just keep increasing it. And I'd say that's about good there. Now, we're going to go do the reds next. So we're going to click on reds. And I'm going to specifically look at those drapes back here. And it's going to take a second to render. And they look pretty smooth. But we'll turn it up. And it affected his face quite a bit. Got a little rid of a lot of noise in his face. And of course, skin tones on a white person are mostly got a lot of reds in the skin tone. So that looks pretty good. I'm just backing it off a little bit until we see some noise, which I'm seeing now. So I'm going to move it forward. That's pretty good. Now we're going to go to blue. And I think the blue might be down here in his guitar more. And there. So we're going to move that to the right. Doesn't really seem to be doing much. Oh, there it's. Yeah, it's Doing something there. Quite a bit. Now it seemed to not be doing as much anymore, so I'm going to back it off to about there. Okay, now we're going to go to color, and we see this noise in here, and we're going to clean color up, see if we can clean color up. Sometimes, like I said, if I don't see it doing anything, I'll just put it to an extreme and see if it does much. And it really isn't. So leave it right about there, I guess. Now we're going to go to RGB because we want to adjust this black level. And we want to go to somewhere black up in here probably. And we have all this kind of color spots and stuff. And as I mentioned, normally you'll see like a magenta tone to it. And as we move it to the right, we're adding green to it to negate the magenta. And if you go too far, you'll start seeing green. And it really isn't doing anything anymore. It brought it to a point, then it stopped. So we're going to back it off. Now, that's good there. Now, detail. This is the part that is going to be tough on this image because there really isn't any detail. Because it's so noisy, it just there isn't much detail to work on. So we could try to reduce the blur a little bit, see if it does anything. And quite frankly, it doesn't. It seems to be enhancing what noise is left. So we're resetting that. And this is probably as good as I could get this image. So we're going to go to Fit. And it's processing. Go off. There is our adjusted image. There's the original image. Now, we could try to just come back here a little bit. Just I would like to try to add a little detail if possible. Nah, doesn't really be because there's just no resolution in this image because the noise was just too strong. So add a little detail, recover detail and reduce blur, and we're going to click OK. Now again, it's going to take a while, actually a little longer to process this image because there was so much noise. So I'm going to pause the video again. Okay, yeah, I'm back. It took a little longer on that one because there was so much noise. That one took probably almost 2 minutes to render. So again, we'll compare them and zoom in. And you could see there's a big difference. Here is the original and here is the one with Denoise. And you can see there's still some detail that, whatever detail was there, which was little, is still kind of preserved. And there's some noise in here. If I probably wanted to work a little more in the shadows area, I probably could have better eliminated the noise right there. But I think it did a great job. Just really did. You could just see the difference between the two shots. Again, now I would probably prefer this to be a black and white image. I just think it's probably a stronger black and white image. It's hard to say, but personal taste. So that's it. That is our first episode where I'm going over the various plugins by Topaz Labs. And this is one of my favorite plugins, Denoise. And that's how I go about eliminating noise in an image. And if you use Denoise, I hope that helps you. I want to thank everyone that watches my videos. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I don't know which plugin I'll be covering next, but why don't you put in the comment below which one you'd like me to do, and I'll see if I could do that one in episode 2. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.